Hi, I'm Kim. Hi. I have been fighting with technology for the past, I don't know, like 30 minutes so that I could sit down and do this. And I'm kind of over it, but also I want to be very um obedient in doing what I was supposed to sit here to do. So, what's up? I've been away and then I've kind of like been popping in and popping out and popping in and popping out kind of a little bit. It's been a lot that's been going on. And for those of you that have been following me for a while, you may have been wondering where I was and what's going on and all of that. And then I also know that there are a bunch of people who are finding me for the very first time. Um, and that is interesting. So, if you will allow me to introduce or reintroduce myself, my name is Kimberland, and I started this channel back in 2022. I was living in Mexico at the time, and I started minding my Black ass business because I had just escaped a very, very traumatic situation working on behalf of the Department of Education in Pennsylvania. So I work as a school improvement specialist and I specialize in school climate and culture. And because of that, many of my conversations are about racism and bias and culturally responsive schools and holding white people accountable for the harm that they cause. So, as you can imagine, if you are familiar with the US and the culture of the US and the way that Pennsylvania showed up in this past election, it was a very, very racially traumatic situation. I'm from New Orleans originally, and I'm used to racism, but the down south racism is a little different. Okay, the down south racism is in your face. Okay, they calling you the N word. You gonna know what's happening. The Klan is marching in the street. Like it is very clear where to go, where not to go, who to deal with, who not to deal with. And when I was growing up, I always heard that things were so much better for Black people up north, right? The slaves escaped and went up north. You just got to get up north. They're just so much better up there. And I actually believe that. Like I said, I'm from New Orleans and I went to school in Nashville, Tennessee, and then I moved to Tampa, Florida, right? So all of that is in the South, and Florida is a breed of its own. So I was like, okay, Pennsylvania, this is going to be a much better climate and culture. And that is a lie. Okay. Full on lie. All right. And it was a lot. I have recorded lots of hours of content about what happened while I was in Pennsylvania. So if you go to the school improvement playlist, you can binge it all, but also it's a lot, right? And it is the story of so many Black women in the United States. So when I started this channel, the reason I started it is because I am a snitch and a whistleblower. And I have a very strong sense of justice, which I now know is that autism. Okay, but nonetheless, it's important to me, and it was important and it continues to be important to me that people understand what was happening in education. So I mentioned that I lived in Tampa for a while. I actually lived in Tampa for 17 years, and I worked for the school district of Hillsborough County, which is the seventh largest school district in the nation. And my role when I was in Hillsborough County Public Schools was multifaceted, but one of the things that I did most consistently was professional development. So I trained teachers, K 12, regarding different things that had to do with cultural competence, right? And what I started to see as my time was winding down in Hillsborough County Public Schools was all of the shifts in education where they were banning books and they were reading these outrageous passages at the school board meetings and like targeting school board members. And it was a lot. And if you've been in Florida or live in Florida, you probably know what I'm talking about, or if you followed what was happening. So, um, that was interesting to experience because I saw what was happening in Florida. Then I went to Pennsylvania and I saw what was happening there. And it became incredibly important to me to use the platform that I had to be able to explain to people why you need to be paying attention to what's happening in the schools. If you did not know, schools in the United States of America are school, the whole education system was created, one, to indoctrinate. So they use school as a way to strip indigenous people of their culture and basically assimilate them into American culture. School was also created to generate a workforce. So, school was not created to teach people how to think or to teach people how to use their voice or to teach people how to advocate for what is right. School was not created for that, right? But I am a proud alumna of Fisk University, and Fisk University in the US was the home of much um, social justice movements and civil action and things of that nature, and continues to be even to this day. So that's where really the advocacy really was like, oh, this is how you do this, you know. But even having said that, I never consciously thought of myself as an activist until I got into this situation and I was like, hey, no, this is not what this is supposed to look like. So when I started the channel, it was to be a whistleblower. It was like, I need y'all to understand what's happening. I need y'all to sit down and watch these videos because this is wow. And what happened was the good people in Pennsylvania wanted me to shut the hell up. Okay. They wanted me to be quiet because I was talking too much. I believe in receipts. Okay. My best friend, Bianca Goolsby, she says all the time, people lie, receipts don't, right? So I believe in receipts. I don't want you to say that I'm making it up. We can all watch it together because you gave me permission to record. And that's what that School Improvement in Pennsylvania series is. Well, what had happened was they got two of my videos taken down. So the two videos that were the initial HR complaint that I made about what was happening, they got those videos taken down because people felt some type of way that they were on the screen, even though they had gave permission to be on the screen. So there was just kind of a campaign to get me to be quiet. So in that, I also during that time, so this was all happening like November of 2022, kind of like November, December. And so also around that time, I decided that I was going to leave Mexico City and I was going to move here to Medellin, Colombia, which is where I live now. So I kind of shut the page down. I was like, let me just, go ahead and be off for the holidays. I'm gonna be off for the holidays. I'm gonna move, and then that's gonna be that. So I kind of took a step back just for the holidays, I thought. So then January 2023, I am an intuitive melanated life coach. So I certify life coaches and I also give life coaching service, right? My specialty is in teaching people how to build a deep personal relationship with God and outside of the systems of religion. So, teaching you how to develop a communication with God and to understand the Holy Spirit that is inside of you and how God guides us and talks to us and sends us messages and tapping into your intuition, tapping back into your body, especially living in a capitalistic environment. It thrives on us being disconnected from our bodies. So I teach people how to reconnect to their bodies and create space for joy and create space for purpose. So in January of 2023, I started my first cohort of intuitive melanated life coaches. I certified 5 life coaches. And so that was from January through June, right? I also used to have some talk shows on an online network called Beautiful Brown Girls, BBG TV. And I did that for 6 years. So during this time, I was continuing to have my shows on Beautiful Brown Girls and certifying my life coaches. So I really just didn't have time to get back into the whistleblowing that I was wanting to do, you know? So I did that and it was great. And my life coaches graduated in June and it was absolutely marvelous. And I thought to myself, man, like things are really lining up. There is an author. Her name is Dr. Joy Harden Bradford, and she is the founder of Therapy for Black Girls. And Therapy for Black Girls is a organization. It's a podcast. It is a um, directory of Black therapists. Dr. Joy has built an amazing thing with Therapy for Black Girls. So Dr. Joy wrote a new book, and her book is called Sisterhood Heals, and it was phenomenal, right? And what happened is her team, someone from her team saw me on Beautiful Brown Girls and they reached out and they were like, hey, we want you to host a fireside chat with Dr. Joy in Miami in July on her book tour stop in Miami. OMG, so excited. Love Dr. Joy. When I was looking for therapists at various points in my life, Therapy for Black Girls was the first place I always went, right? So I am just like, oh my God, so excited. Yes, yes, and more yes. I read Sisterhood Heals. It is an amazing book. I absolutely recommend it, and we'll probably be doing a book study soon. But read the book, was so excited about going to have this fireside chat with Dr. Joy. And I started like feeling so in my old apartment, I had a really nice closet, and the closet had a window, and then it had like a we call them chest of drawer. I don't know what anybody else calls them, but some drawers, right? And then it was kind of like a window seat. So I made it my window seat, right? So during this time, I um I would just like be in the closet. Like I just felt called to the closet. And it felt like when I was in the closet, it was just so peaceful. And like God was talking to me in the closet and all of that, right? I'm just hanging out in the closet. And then God was talking to me and God was like, hey, you need to start recording your thoughts. Because for some reason, well, there is a reason, but I was finding it difficult to write at the time. So God was like, just start talking, like plug in the microphone and just start talking so that you can get your thoughts out your head. So I recorded this podcast episode called Both and. And in this episode, I was talking about how excited I was about meeting Dr. Joy and this opportunity to host a fireside chat. If you don't know, like hosting somebody's book tour stop is how a lot of people get connected to other people, and then people find out who you are and they're like, oh my gosh, like she's amazing, right? I've been on the internet since like 2016, 2017 with Beautiful Brown Girls. So I have met a lot of people that are really influential. However, at the time, they didn't know me. Like I was just some lady, and I also didn't realize how good I am at what I do. So by this time though, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely an amazing opportunity. And y'all signing up for Kimberlyn, baby. Kimberlyn is coming. Okay. So anyway, in that both and episode, I was talking about how I was so excited, but I was also really stressed out. I was finding it really hard to make the arrangements for the flights, and it was just like so many moving parts. And I was feeling very unsettled about going back to the US. And I in that episode was like, hold on, y'all, my light's gonna die. Okay. So in that episode, I was like, I'm really stressed out. Like I'm so happy, but I'm also like so stressed. And that was kind of the theme for the next Still Now, creating space for multiple things to be true at the same time, right? So those podcast episodes are on my YouTube page here. If you go to Mind of My Black Ass Business, and that is the very first episode. So there, at the time, I didn't know it was a podcast. I was just talking and just trying to process what I was feeling. And over time, I kept like being like, oh, I should talk about this and I should talk about that. So you'll hear me say, like during the thing, it's completely unedited. You'll hear me say stuff like, I guess we're doing this. Like, I guess this is a podcast now, or I don't know where this is going to be or where I'm going to put it, but here we are, type of thing. So, I did that and I recorded a bunch of episodes, and I wound up going to Miami, and I had the book tour stop with Dr. Joy on July 11th of 2023. It was such an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it. Dr. Joy is from Louisiana. I'm from New Orleans. So she went to Xavier. So it's like we just had so many things to talk about. We're both Greek. She's an AKA. I'm a Delta. And it was nice. Like she is who she presents to be, and that was really cool. So I did that. And then the next day, I had an interview for Beautiful Brown Girls, and it turned out to be my last Brown Girl Boss episode. I didn't know it at the time, but it was. And after I left Miami, I went to St. Martin to a retreat that we were having for Beautiful Brown Girls. So there was a Beautiful Brown Girls Girlfriends Getaway in St. Martin. So I went on that trip, and it was beautiful. St. Martin is gorgeous, at least the parts that I saw, but also it was work. I was there to work. So we had a show while we were there, and hosting, and, all of that. So I left St. Martin, and then it was time for me to come back here to Medellin, to Colombia. And I got an offer. So I do professional development. I train teachers and administrators across the US. So I had gotten some bids from a company that I partner with, and they wanted me to go to Indiana and Kentucky for some trainings. Now, Indiana and Kentucky are like the Midwest. Okay. Now, I told you I was working in Pennsylvania, and I told you how traumatic it was, to the point that I packed up all of my shit and left the US. So, when confronted with having to go back to Indiana and Kentucky, it just became a lot for me. And also, I left this part out. While I was in Miami, I had two experiences that really just sat with me and didn't sit well. One was I had gone to Target to get some Donna's Recipe hair products from Tabitha Brown. And while I was there, there was this older Hispanic lady that was in the store, and she was buying a gift for someone, and the self checkout didn't have any paper in the register for the self checkout. So she was trying to get someone's attention so that she could get a receipt because this was a gift, right? And again, the machine didn't have no paper. So she's like trying to get people's attention, and she's kind of like to whoever will stop because employees are just like flying by her. So finally someone stopped and she asked them if they spoke Spanish. And the employee was like, I don't speak, so I don't know what you're saying, and like went off on the lady. So then I'm like, oh my God, because this is the thing. I've lived in Mexico and I've lived in Colombia. I have put my life into the literal hands of the Mexican people and the Colombian people, and they have never treated me that way. I am still learning Spanish. I know enough Spanish now to be able to have a conversation for the most part if it's slow enough. At the time, I really didn't speak a lot of Spanish. And definitely when I first moved, I didn't speak a lot of Spanish. And nobody ever treated me that ugly. So I was just like so taken aback by that. So I go up to the lady and I explained to her, I was like, I speak a little Spanish. What do you need? So she tells me it's a gift. She needs a receipt in case I need to return it. Like she tells me all those things. So I go to an employee and I'm like, hey, she needs the receipt. Well, we already told her she don't need a receipt for that. And I was like, first of all, she does not speak English. So you didn't tell her anything. Okay. She doesn't know what you said. Like she doesn't speak the language. So I turn around, I tell the lady what they said, that she didn't need the receipt. But then finally a manager or somebody comes out and gives her receipt. So it got taken care of. So she thanks me and she's like, just thank you so much. And I'm like, no problema. Like, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. So I finish up my business in Target and then I leave out of Target and I see a black man get arrested. If you know anything about the police and black people in the United States, that is just a trauma in itself. So then I was angry because it was his fault. He was soliciting and they asked him to leave and he wouldn't leave. So then they called the police and the police are just like, why don't you just leave? And he's like, I'm not doing that. And it was like, it was stupid. But I felt so responsible to make sure that this man got back in, at least got into the police car alive. Like it was just a lie. And it was stuff that I hadn't had to think about since I left, because when I was in Mexico, I wasn't thinking about being stopped by the police. Like that's not a thing there. Not just being stopped, being killed. Like that's not a thing in Mexico. Nor is it a thing here in Colombia. So it just kind of took me back to the trauma of being black in the US. So I hadn't really processed that. That had happened. I did the interview. I went to St. Martin. I'm working. It was crazy even trying to get back home. I get back to Columbia. The company is trying to get me to go to Indiana and Kentucky. So I'm sitting in my closet one day, and also at the time I had braces. So my orthodontist was in Mexico City. So I had to do like a lot of logistical things that was happening. So I needed to get to Mexico City. Then from Mexico City, I needed to go to Indiana. I need to go to Kentucky. But this is the thing, I don't have a license. And the reason I don't have a license is because I had gone back to the US in September of 2022 and someone in the airport stole all of the things out of my wallet. There's a whole story about that. I'm not getting into it now, but my license got taken. So now I'm thinking to myself, and I wasn't living in the country, right? So I couldn't just go get another license. Like you have to like be in the country to do that. So I didn't have a license. So I was counting up like the number of Ubers that I would have to take and all of that. At the same time, during this time, There is an artist, what's I don't remember this man's name right now. Jason Aldean, maybe I think. He has a song called Try That in a Small Town that came out. And the song was basically about sundown towns and don't come over here with your woke ideology, and basically it's not gonna be good. So that was also out at the time. So I'm sitting in my closet one day and I'm trying to book all these tickets. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I got to go to Indiana. Okay, then I'm going to have to go from the airport to the hotel, from the hotel to the school, from the school back to the hotel. Like I do Uber Eats for food. And then from the hotel back to the airport. Then I got to go from Indiana to Kentucky. I got to do the same thing. So I'm like counting up all these Ubers in my head. And I'm thinking to myself, these are small towns. These are small towns. And I don't know. I don't know. So I wind up having a panic attack. And that was a clue that I wasn't okay. The last time I had a panic attack is when I was living in Pennsylvania, which was like the first time I had a panic attack, but the last time was in Pennsylvania. So I knew that I wasn't okay. So I'm like, okay, what is happening, right? And the next day, so this is July 25th. So the next day I wake up and I'm in bed and I'm like, God, I don't know what is happening. I don't understand. And I heard God say, go get in the shower. So I told you that the closet is where I will talk to God, but I will also talk to God in the shower. So I didn't even hardly get into the shower before I felt God's presence and heard God speaking to me. And basically, what happened is I had a full mental health crisis, meltdown, break, spiritual awakening in the shower. Again, this is in that podcast series where I unpack this and talk about what happened. So after that, um, basically God told me I wasn't going to Indiana and Kentucky. He gave me some very specific instructions about how to activate certain people because I realized that I was in no capacity to be able to work. So I sent out emails and I've had meetings and basically was like, I don't know what to do. Because what do you do after you have a mental health crisis? What now? How this work? I don't know. I ain't never done this before, right? So I in my mind was like, I'm gonna take off August and I'll be fine. Like, okay, I just need some time to rest. And I took off ish, kind of. So I had found a new therapist and she's absolutely amazing, trauma therapist, and she really helped me to understand and process what was going on. So she told me I needed to take off and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But Beautiful Brown Girls was still running, right? I'm just taking off for August. I got my subs in. I'ma be back, you know. So there was a situation that happened with Beautiful Brown Girls where I wound up having to work when I shouldn't have. And it really, really felt disappointing, and it hurt, honestly, because I had been with at the time, 5.5 years with Beautiful Brown Girls and had never said something like this, had never said, I'm not okay and I can't do this. And um because of a whole lot of circumstances, I didn't feel supported in that situation. And it really um exacerbated what I was already feeling. So I was talking to my therapist and she was like, "Didn't I tell you to take off?" And I was like, "Yes." And she was like, "Listen, I'm concerned." And those are not the words that you want to hear from a mental health specialist. You don't want them to be concerned, right? You want them to like be all right, we're making progress. Concerned is like, hey girl, you like two steps away from somebody having to come and get you, is how I took it. So I took that to heart. And I was like, okay, okay, all right. So September, I'm not doing anything, right? So September 2023, I took all my notifications off my phone. I was absolutely unavailable for anything at all. I wasn't like, I was talking to people, yes, but not really. And it was the most beautiful month I've had, and it had since that time. It was so peaceful. It was so peaceful, and I felt like everything was gonna be all right. Um, so as September started winding down, I'm thinking, all right, so let me get back in here, get back into the beautiful brown girl swing and get this party started. And that did not happen. Um, and then October, some things started kind of bubbling up as I was in therapy, right? So I'm talking about what's happening and trying to give background information. And I used to be a master compartmentalizer. So that means I would just take stuff and stuff it in a box, put it on the shelf, deal with that later, right? I did it so well. Yeah, no, I was really, really, really good at it. And all the shit started falling out the box at the same time. All of it, everything. Everything started falling out the boxes all at the same damn time. And I really didn't know what to do with that. On top of that, I hadn't worked at this point all of August. I hadn't worked all of September. So all of the contracts that I had dried up. And also, I didn't trust that my brain was even in a place for me to be able to work. So the money that I had that was saved was quickly evaporating. So in October, I wrote a letter to my family, and I basically was like, I need y'all to understand what's actually happening, because y'all giving me a lot of trust to be all right, and y'all should be worried about me because I'm not all right. I saw a meme the other day and it was like, when you tell people, I'm not okay and I'm trying to, get in there, like, no, you're totally fine. You always figure it out. I'm not worried about you. And it's like, you should worry about me. You actually should. So I wrote that letter to my family and friends. And I basically was like, I don't know what to do. I'm about to be out of money and I don't think I can work and I don't know what to do. So, in their best efforts, it was offered for me to come back to the US. And I didn't feel like I could do that because I had just left the US. And that's what caused this mental health crisis. So now you're telling me that you want me to come back? Like I can't. I don't see myself being able to do that. So I wound up having to take a trip to Mexico because I had postponed that other trip. Remember, I told you I was trying to plan for Mexico to Indiana, Kentucky. I had postponed that. So I had to get my braces tightened so I could get them off. So I took a trip to Mexico in November, and I met up with someone there who I thought was a friend. And I explained to her what was going on. She asked me how I was doing. I chose to be honest. And she said, "You can stay with me. You can stay with me. You don't even have to explain. I understand. You can stay with me." And I felt so grateful and like there was hope because I didn't know what else to do. So I accepted the offer. I came back to Medellin. I packed my stuff. I told the person that I was getting the apartment from, I have an emergency and I have to take care of me. I can't stay here anymore. So I left and I went to Mexico, and this was about December 5th or 7th or somewhere around that of 2023. So almost a year ago. And I got to Mexico and I stayed with this friend, and it was an incredibly traumatic experience. Um, I am unsure if it was done on purpose or not, but my life was in danger there, and I had to wind up leaving her place to go to a hotel a few days before I was planning to leave. It was a lot. I also recorded a video about that that I just watched the other day, and that was a lot. So I escaped there, and then I came back here to Medellin, which was always my plan to be here. So I came back here in February of this year, and also I keep saying a lot. Forgive me. I'm trying to put all this stuff back together and walk through this without like actually stopping and staying, because I know I'm saying a lot of things and I'm also not stopping to like explain it because I've explained it in other places. But yeah, so I got back here in February, and I'm not really sure how I had money. I don't know. I think I had to have started working somewhere somehow to have some kind of money from somewhere. I don't know. But I got back here, got a new apartment, and things were going well, you know. I moved into the apartment that I'm in now in March, and it's absolutely beautiful. I love it so much. It has a beautiful balcony, a beautiful view, and I was working and doing the best that I could, right? Um, and when I'm saying working, I'm using that loosely because it's like I was working, but then also most of the work that I was doing was actually with my psychologist. So when I was in Mexico, I realized that I live with OCD. So bathrooms have always been difficult for me. There's even a podcast episode called I Hate Bathrooms. Um, and I just thought that I didn't like them, and I didn't realize how much it was controlling my life and how many things that I do around bathroom practices. And as you can imagine, you cannot avoid a bathroom. Like, you have to go to the bathroom at least once a day, but maybe two or three. But it had gotten to the point, especially when I was in Mexico, that particular bathroom was just cold and dark, and it just didn't feel good. Um, so I had gotten my shower routine down to like 5 minutes in and out. I'm talking from the moment I hit the door to showered whole body out in like 5.5 minutes. So it wasn't like my luxurious shower routine that I have here that I had in my old apartment. You know, I have colored lights and I got eucalyptus, and it's like, oh, first I wash with soap and then my body wash and then I exfoliate and then my in shower moisturizer. And like, it's the whole experience. I'm listening to music. None of that. No, it wasn't no music. Actually, I think I did have music in my ears because I wanted to like just play a song. And like by the end of the song, that's what it was. It was by the end of the song, I would be out. It was a lot. It was a lot. So while I was there, I was talking to one of my friends and I was telling him what was happening. And he was like, have you ever read Howie Mandel's book? So Howie Mandel is a famous actor and comedian. and he also lives with OCD. And I listened to the first 5 minutes of the book on Audible, and I was in tears. And I was like, I did not understand that this is what I was going through. So when that happened, I was like, I need to get somebody got to help me understand what's going on, because what is happening? So I went to my orthodontist, who is like family to me in Mexico City, and she was so supportive through all of this. Like, she really, really, really showed up for me. And I was telling her what was going on, and I was like, um, I need a psychologist and I don't know where to start. So she said, I have a patient who is a psychologist. I'm going to ask her. The very next day, she messages me and she's like, here's the number. Call her. She speaks English. She's here in Mexico City. Call her. So, in the US, like with stuff like healthcare and psychologists and all that kind of stuff, you be like, can I see you a month from now, 2 months from now? So I'm expecting it to like take a long time. That was probably a Wednesday. She was like, can you come on Friday? So that's what I did. So I went and I started explaining what I was going through, what I had lived through, what I think, what is happening. And she started helping me to kind of piece together what I now know is an unmasking journey of honoring who I am and honoring the way that my brain works. So the diagnoses, if you will, are autism, ADHD, OCD. I also live with anxiety and depression, and complex PTSD. So that's a lot. That's a lot. So that journey kind of coincided like with that the end of the time that I was there in Mexico. So once I got back here to Colombia, I still work with her now. And she was, just trying to help me put my life together. And I can't even say back together, because what I've realized in this process is that the life that I once had was not really me. It was who I had to be in order to be safe. It was who I had to be in order to be successful, whatever that means, but it was never the core of me. Um and we started to really go back and understand the foundation of where my belief systems and the way that I show up, the way that I show up for myself, the way I show up for other people, the way that I am very, very, very transparent and vulnerable, because I was lied to my whole life about everything. I mean, everything. And I'm still finding out, and I'm sure I'll continue to find out additional things that were just not true. And I don't know who can relate to that. But if any of you have grown up in families with narcissistic people, is not something I would wish on anybody. It's a lot to process. And there are a lot of hard decisions that have to be made. So I left home at 18 to go to college, but I knew I was never going back to live in New Orleans. And I didn't know at the time the depth of harm that had been caused, or the depth of trauma I had experienced, the depth of abuse that I had experienced. I didn't know. And I'm still unpacking that, to be honest. I'm still trying to process why you would do that to a sweet baby girl who just wanted to do what was right. I don't know why somebody would do that, but that's what happened. And here I am, um, trying to heal from it all and process who I actually am and who I had to be in order to stay safe. So that journey has been interesting. I have been no contact with my mother and certain members of my family for about 7 years now. And that's been a interesting process, when you don't have a relationship with family, specifically with your mother, there is a lot of assumptions that are made about the type of person that you must be. And what I want to say to anybody who got it twisted, nobody wakes up and says, I don't want to have a relationship with my mother without cause. Nobody does that. And I think it's important for us to understand that it's possible for people to be a hero or a villain in multiple people's stories, right? So there are many people, many might be an exaggeration. There are people in this world that look at my mother as if she is this beautiful human being who looks out for children and does all of this volunteer work and all of that and whatever. And that's fine. And that's true. And also, she is a horrible person to her own daughter. Horrible. And has always been. And tries to play the victim. I've been writing about my relationship. Actually, my very first blog post, which is on my website, KimberlyJackson.com. My very first blog post was about my relationship with my mother. And that core relationship, it really, really, really fucked me up from the get go. From the get go. And I've had to do a lot of work to become the person that I am today. I've had to do so much unlearning and intentional learning and accountability and self discovery and therapy to not be the person that my mother raised me to be. And because of that, I have had to accept that certain family members I won't ever have a relationship with. Um it's fucked up, to be honest. And I don't know if I said this, today is Thanksgiving, which I don't celebrate Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving's sake, but I believe with a lot of um Black people, it becomes about family and gratitude and all of that. And I don't really have family like that. Not that I'm blood related to, who actually actively care about me. Not a aunt, not an uncle, not a mama. I thank God for my dad, and he and I have been through so much together because of my mother. I thank God for him and the things that I was able to learn when I was in the house, and so much more that I've been able to gain, um, being an adult and us being able to have our own relationship outside of how my mother tried to poison our relationship. Again, there are blog posts about that. My cousin is here with me in Medellin, and she is my absolute favorite cousin and one of my most favorite people on the face of the planet. And then I have a lot of people that I've chosen to be a part of my family because that concept of family, I just didn't find with people that I share blood with. So that is what I've been up to. That's what I've been up to. I've been processing all of that and redefining life and redefining family. That's actually um my current homework assignment from my psychologist is what does this word family mean to me? And I think for me, and I would be interested for you all to tell me too in the comments, like what family means to you. To me, family represents safety and comfort, um, wisdom and connection, um, a place to ground and to know that you're safe to be yourself. My blood family does not represent that in any way. So I am building a new family and I am learning how to honor what I need in order to feel safe and not feeling ashamed or guilty for being able to say, this is what I need, because I give it in return over and abundantly, sometimes to my detriment. So I'm learning how to give voice to that. And I'm learning how to stand in my power and my giftings. Um, Through all of this, the relationship that I have developed with God is so deep. There were things about myself that I thought were accidents and were flaws. And God was like, girl, no, I did that on purpose, sis. Like, I did that on purpose. My strong sense of justice, my unwillingness to be quiet in the face of things that aren't right, my wanting to see people, to bring people along. I believe there's enough for all of us to win. I don't understand when people create these pseudo competitions because it's not a competition. It's not. Um, God made me that way on purpose. And that has been the most beautiful journey out of all of this for me to shed this person that my mother tried to make me be, to embrace who God actually created me to be. It's been fulfilling. It has been exciting. It's been an adventure because a lot of times I really don't know where it's going. But one thing I do know is that this is God's mission and not mine. This is God's mission. And I can stand firmly in that because God has shown up. I don't know how many times. I have so many ways. And that's why I'm so glad that I've lived my life, a lot of my life on the internet, because you could go back. The receipts are there. The receipts are there. Okay. Um, the comfort that I take in knowing that God is with me and guiding my steps and going ahead of me and preparing a place for my soul to experience peace. Because that's all I wanted my entire life is just peace. I have a tattoo on the back of my neck, and it's the Chinese symbol for peace. I got it in 2009. I was in an abusive relationship and I was trying to get out. And I said, I just need peace. So that is the journey that I am on. That is what I have been up to. That is what I continue to be walking towards. And I'm so, so grateful that you are here. I hope that there is something that I have said that resonates with your spirit and helps you to see yourself and helps you to honor yourself and helps you to find your voice and helps you to feel empowered and helps you to know that you are the magic. Um, that is the legacy that I want to leave. That's the legacy that I want to leave. So, having said that, I have a list of things that we have to talk about because I got to catch y'all up. It's stuff that done happen. It's stuff that's happening. It's stuff that's finna happen. It's a lot. Okay. So hopefully, you're strapped in. Let this be your reality show, but also let this be a call for you to allow yourself to explore the inner depths of your brain, the inner depths of your heart, the inner depths of your spirit. Um, this is a journey that I want us to take together. This is a journey I want us to be able to support each other in. And I have a lot that is planned. I'm actually, for the month of December, the only type of on camera work that I am doing is this. So different videos here publicly, as well as my vlogs on my YouTube page. I'm sorry, on my Patreon page. This is YouTube. On my Patreon page. Um, I believe that 2025 is going to be a year like we have never seen. And I tell you what, I'm tired of unprecedented times. Let me say that. But also, I think that God is removing many of us from the line of fire to be able to have lives filled with peace and joy where we get to frolic and we get to blow bubbles and we get to paint and we get to laugh and we get to be surrounded with people who make our nervous systems feel calm and supported. That is what the mission is for 2025. And I hope that you will come along with me. So, welcome to Minding My Black Ass Business. Welcome to the adventure. Welcome. Make sure that you have subscribed to the page. It is a free way to be able to support. Make sure that you like this video and please leave a comment if there is something that I've said that resonates with your spirit. If you are looking for deeper connection, please do come over to my Patreon at Minding My Black Ass Business. Um, that's where we can really connect. I also would like to invite you to go and listen to my podcast. Again, it's here on the YouTube page under the podcast, Minding My Black Ass Business, as well as the other two podcasts that I have, Heal That Shit with my best friend, Bianca, and So You Don't Put Syrup on Your Grilled Cheese with my cousin Kalanda. So You Don't Put Syrup on Your Grilled Cheese is hosted here on Mind of My Black Ass Business. Go back and you can see from the beginning of the years when we started. Also, it was a lot of tech issues. It's hard transitioning from virtual and online to in person. So we doing our best and we're aunties. Okay. So we're trying. All right. Um, and Heal That Shit with Bianca is on a separate YouTube channel, Heal That Shit. And again, it's the community that we both decided to start from the ground up of being there for people who want to heal the shit that has been weighing on you, because we deserve lives of freedom and fulfillment and joy and peace. So please do that. Go to my website, kimberlynjackson.com. My blog is there, as well as you can find out information about Discover Your Destiny. I am going to be doing some videos specifically dedicated to that, because Discover Your Destiny is the pathway that I took to get myself out of that abusive relationship. It is what I did in order to understand who I am. And I know that there are many of you who are watching and who are listening who are on that path. It might not be getting out of an abusive relationship with a partner, it might be getting out of an abusive relationship with the United States. Okay. So you can find that there and look at the components of Discover Your Destiny. I am opening registration actually tomorrow. I'm going to try to post this tonight, so we'll see. But I'm opening registration tomorrow for Discover Your Destiny. So I will be doing some videos to really talk about what the program is about, as well as a couple interviews that I have done with my life coaches who are also intuitive melanated life coaches and are out here doing the thing, you know. So look out for that. And what else? Finding Peace Abroad is another mission that I have, and that's people who are looking to leave the US and you need somebody to sit down and do strategy work with you to develop a personalized plan for you to get from out of there. Holla at me. Um, I think that's it. I think that's it for now. So I'll be seeing y'all. Um, I'll be seeing y'all. So drop me some sunflowers into the chat if you got this far. That's how I know who my people are. Okay, so drop me some sunflowers in the chat. And I will be back soon as I figure out how to unpack all of this and make it make sense. All right. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Bye.